My name is Jack. I'm 33 years old, and I've always been the type of person who remembers birthdays, shows up with a gift, and offers to help clean up, even if I wasn't the one who made the mess. But for as long as I can remember, my family never made that easy. I'm not exactly the black sheep of the family, but rather I've always felt like the invisible one. I'm not the dramatic or loud type, and I've never had a major falling out with anyone. However, over the years, I've felt the slow, subtle sting of being pushed out. It's the small things being left out of group chats, inside jokes, I didn't understand family photos, where I was mysteriously absent despite being there standing just off to the side. I kept giving them the benefit of the doubt. They forgot I would tell myself it wasn't personal. I held on to that narrative longer than I should have. Part of me thought that if I just kept showing up being helpful, staying kind, eventually they would see me again. But the thing about being quietly excluded is that it gives people plausible deniability. And that's the worst part. No one has to explicitly say that you're not wanted. They simply make it so you stop expecting an invitation. It becomes a subtle, silent process where over time you just stop hoping to be included. A month ago, I was at my nephew Liam's 7th birthday party. Liam is my sister Kate's son. I brought him a Lego Star Wars set, something he'd been asking for, and I even stayed after the party to help him build the first half of it. It was a nice moment, something I thought we'd both remember. The other adults had left, and I stayed behind to help clean up. Kate was scrolling through her phone while I helped wash the dishes. We exchanged some casual conversation, nothing too serious. It felt normal, maybe things were starting to level out. I thought that maybe this time we were finally getting to a place where I wouldn't feel so invisible anymore. So when I said I can't wait for the big family dinner tomorrow, looking forward to catching up with everyone, I said it with complete sincerity. My cousin Tara froze mid-bite of leftover cake. Then she burst into laughter. "Wait, you don't know," she said, still laughing. "That was yesterday." I felt my stomach drop. I turned to my aunt, half hoping this was a joke. But no, without missing a beat, she pulled out her phone and started showing me photos. There it was. A long table set up in my parents' backyard, fairy lights, strung up champagne glasses, everyone dressed up. To my horror, there were even extended family members I hadn't seen in years. Toasts, speeches, kids playing group photos. It wasn't just a random backyard barbecue. This was the big family dinner, the one my mom hosts every year, basically the family reunion. My aunt started swiping through the gallery like she was showing me vacation photos. "Oh, this one's from just before dessert," she said. "That's when your mom gave her little speech about being surrounded by all her blessings." She paused, seemingly realizing too late that I probably shouldn't be hearing all this. But the moment was already ruined. My face grew hot, my mouth felt dry, and then my sister, who hadn't said a word up until now, looked up from drying a plate and muttered, "Maybe take the hint next time," just like that. I didn't say anything. I didn't even move. I stood there for a few seconds watching her casually wipe down a serving tray, acting as if she hadn't just pierced me in the chest with her words. The room suddenly felt suffocating. I put the sponge down, walked into the living room, grabbed the envelope with Liam's birthday card and the extra gift card I had tucked inside as a surprise, and I left. As I drove home, I couldn't stop thinking about the words my sister had said. "Maybe take the hint next time." I replayed them over and over in my head. The way she said it, not angrily, not with malice, just tired. It was as if it had been building up for a long time and she finally just couldn't hide it anymore. I felt like I was some clueless outsider who hadn't gotten the message. The more I thought about it, the more it hit me like I had been the fool for thinking I still had a place in the family. I had believed that if I just kept showing up, if I just kept being helpful and kind, they'd eventually notice me again. But the truth was, I had been living in denial. I cried in my car that night. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed either. It wasn't about missing the family dinner. It was about the final clarity, the undeniable confirmation that I wasn't one of them anymore, that I had become, at best, a distant obligation they'd long stopped caring about. That night I couldn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, going over years of slights I had brushed off. The time they told me that Christmas dinner was just for immediate family, and then posted group photos with people I barely recognized. The group chats I only found out about through screenshots. The birthday wishes that were forgotten. The jokes that I never got because they happened in rooms I wasn't invited into. I had spent so much time trying to fit into a place that didn't want me there, hoping for something that was never going to come. I didn't want revenge. I wasn't interested in making anyone feel bad about what had happened. What I needed more than anything was peace. And peace didn't mean continuing to be part of something that had already left me behind. Peace meant stepping away. It meant letting go of the hope that they would ever change, that they would finally see me for who I was. It meant accepting the fact that I had to move on, not because I didn't care about them, but because I had to stop holding on to a place at the table that wasn't mine. That night I made a decision. I was done. I was done hoping, done showing up, done trying to make everyone else's life better at the expense of my own. I needed to start living for myself. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their acknowledgement. I needed to start building a life that was mine and mine alone. I thought about all the years I had spent trying to earn a seat at the table that I had long been excluded from. I thought about all the times I had made myself small just to fit into a family that didn't see me. But I didn't need to do that anymore. I didn't need to make myself invisible just to keep the peace. I was tired of being the person who kept giving without ever receiving anything in return. I was tired of being the one who was always there for everyone else while no one was there for me. I was tired of pretending that things would get better when they never would. So I started planning. Not for revenge, at least not in the way most people would think. I wasn't interested in making anyone suffer. What I wanted was to finally be free. I wanted to take control of my life. I wanted to start fresh without the weight of the past holding me down. The first step was financial. Over the past few years, I had been doing well financially. I worked in technology, and while I wasn't a millionaire, I had made some smart investments, especially in real estate. Nobody really asked about my life, so they had no idea I now owned 3 rental homes. They didn't know that I had been quietly helping my parents with things like roof repairs and plumbing issues through anonymous grants I set up for my LLC. I had never needed credit for it. I just wanted to support them because they were my parents, or at least they used to be. But after everything that happened at the party, I realized that I could no longer continue this. I could no longer silently carry the burden of helping them, hoping for recognition that would never come. I had been quietly helping, but now it was time for me to make a real change. A week after the birthday party, I got a frantic call from my mom. She was upset saying the air conditioning in her house had broken down during the first heat wave of the season. The repair cost was over $8,000, and the guy I usually worked with had said he hadn't received the usual maintenance retainer from me this year. Did something happen with the fund? She asked, her voice trembling. I calmly told her I had dissolved the grant program. She didn't understand at first, but I didn't elaborate. I'm sure you and everyone at the dinner can figure something out, I said. There was silence on the other end of the line. I could almost hear her thoughts racing. I didn't wait for her to respond. I ended the call politely and moved on with my plan. That same day, I called my lawyer. Over the years, I had funded other things for my family: college savings for my niece, emergency dental work for my uncle, a part-time assistant my sister used for her Etsy business. I had receipts for all of it. What no one knew was that I had tied those funds to clauses and agreements. And what they didn't know was that those clauses could be canceled with a single signature. I signed the documents, sent the letters, and froze the accounts. It took about 2 weeks for the ripple effect to hit. My inbox was flooded with missed calls, messages, and missed FaceTime calls. One of them was from my cousin, who simply texted, "What is going on?" but I didn't respond. Then came the family group chat. It wasn't the one I had been excluded from, but the old one, the one I had created 5 years ago when my granddad passed away, and everyone wanted to coordinate funeral logistics. I still had admin rights. So I decided to have a little fun with it. I renamed the chat "Maybe Take the Hint," and then one by one I removed every single member. I didn't say a word. I just left them in silence. But that wasn't the end of it. There was one more thing that I hadn't taken back yet: the lake house. Technically, it wasn't fully mine, but it belonged to my grandparents. Then it was passed down to my mom and her sister, my Aunt Valerie. After Aunt Valerie passed, her share was passed to my cousin Tara, the same cousin who had laughed at me about missing the family dinner. Years ago, when my mom had fallen behind on some payments, I quietly bought her share. Legally, I owned 50%, but no one in the family had updated their mental scorecards. They still treated it like grandma's place, using it freely, whenever they liked: weekends, holidays, even full summers. And for years, I let them. I never booked it for myself. Never once did I say no when someone wanted to use it. I even quietly paid for a new dock last summer, without ever asking for credit. But now things were different. Now the lake house was a stage and I had the script. I decided to make my move. Memorial Day weekend was just around the corner, and the entire family usually flooded into the lake house. It had been a tradition for over a decade. Barbecues, bonfires, kids fishing off the pier, adults getting tipsy and loud as the sun set. I used to love it, but for the past few years I hadn't been invited. This year, however, I didn't need an invitation. I wasn't going to wait around for someone to call me. 3 days before the weekend, I filed the paperwork to restrict shared access to my half of the property. Thanks to a little-known clause in the deed, either owner could partition use of the property if a conflict arose. My lawyer made sure the documentation was airtight. I wasn't blocking anyone from using the house. I just wanted them to respect the fact that it was a shared ownership. I required a co-owner agreement for anyone to use the lake house. And Tara, of course, hadn't been paying attention to any of the legal mail I had sent. She was too used to me being the nice one, the easygoing one, the one who always let things slide. So Friday morning, I drove up early, unlocked the house, and parked my truck sideways in the driveway to make sure no one could pull in behind me. Then I waited. It didn't take long before three cars rolled up. My sister Kate, Tara, my mom, the kids, and their spouses. They were all laughing and joking until they saw me standing there. Tara stepped out of the car first. "You're here?" she asked, her voice tight with surprise. I smiled and replied, "It's Memorial Day. Thought I'd enjoy the lake." She walked up to me, arms crossed. "Well, we plan to stay the weekend." I looked at her calmly and said, "I told Mom she could have the master bedroom, but that's going to be a problem now. The house is locked for co-owner review. You would have seen the notice if you'd checked your mail." She blinked, clearly confused. "What notice?" My sister Kate chimed in, already irritated. "Jack, don't be dramatic. We've been coming here for years. Just because you weren't invited to one dinner doesn't mean we can't stay at the lake house." I raised a hand, silencing her. "It's not about one dinner. It's about respect. Something this family has stopped giving me for a long time." My mom, who had been silent, finally approached me. Her voice was soft. "Jack, honey, we didn't mean to hurt you. It's just that things got busy. You know how it is." For a moment, I almost softened. Almost. But then I remembered every time she defended Tara's cruelty, laughed off my exclusion, like it was a misunderstanding, and kept asking me to be the bigger person. "I know exactly how it is," I said, "and that's why I'm here now. This house isn't a vacation spot anymore. If you want access, we need to draft a new agreement." Tara's voice rose in anger. "You're destroying the family tradition over what hurt feelings?" She couldn't seem to understand why I was standing my ground. I met her gaze unflinching. "No, Tara, you destroyed the family part a long time ago. I'm just handling the paperwork now." They tried everything to break me down, yelling, pleading, guilt-tripping. My mom even teared up, her eyes full of unshed tears. But I didn't budge. I had spent too many years allowing their dismissals, their silence, their indifference. I had spent too long playing the role of the passive family member who just showed up and tried to keep the peace. But no more. "You're being selfish, Jack, my sister," Kate said, her voice sharp. "This is not how a family should act. You're turning your back on us for something that's so small." Tara threatened to sue me. She threatened everything she could think of. But it didn't matter. I had everything documented, messages, receipts, and the clause in the deed that protected me. Finally, after all the shouting, they left. No apologies, no understanding. Just a few final words thrown at my back as they stormed off, but I didn't flinch. I stood firm, watching them drive away down the gravel road, the dust settling behind them. I went inside the house and opened a beer, sitting down in the old rocking chair I had used for years. That night, I sat outside by the fire pit, watching the embers float up into the night sky like sparks from some long-forgotten 4th of July. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I belonged. But the journey wasn't over yet. I had more steps to take. The next morning, I woke up to the sounds of birds chirping and the complete stillness of the house. It was eerie how peaceful it felt. There were no kids yelling on the dock, no loud music blaring from the porch, and no smell of my sister's burnt bacon wafting through the air. Just quiet. I made myself a cup of coffee and walked barefoot down to the lake. The early mist rose from the water like steam from some old hidden secret. As I stood there taking it all in, I felt calm, resolved. After my moment of reflection by the lake, I knew it was time to make everything permanent. I had to let go completely of the past of the family I once knew and of the ties that had kept me chained to a place where I wasn't wanted anymore. Before heading into the city, I made one final stop at the local post office. I had a thick manila envelope with me addressed to my family lawyer. Inside, there was the final piece of the puzzle. I had made the decision to sell my half of the lake house, not just to anyone, but to a couple from out of state. A private couple, no drama, no kids, just retirees looking for a peaceful getaway in the summer. I had even sweetened the deal for them, offering a slightly better price if they agreed to one condition: they would install a gate. Not a huge one, just enough to mark their half of the property, clearly and legally prevent any accidental visits from family members who once treated it like their personal vacation home. But the envelope didn't just include the sale contract. There was also an exit letter, a single page folded on top of the documents. I had written it slowly over 2 nights, carefully crafting my words. I didn't want to be cruel, but I had to be brutally honest. Here's part of what it said. To everyone who forgot me, you may not have realized it, but over the years I became a ghost in this family. Not because I drifted away, but because you quietly pushed me there with your exclusions, your silence, and your smug smirks. Every time I showed up still believing I mattered. I was the helper, the giver, the quiet one, the extra at the table. I never asked for much, just a chair and a little kindness. But your message has been clear. I'm not family. I'm a resource, a wallet, an afterthought, a punchline, so now I'm taking the hint. You won't have to forget to invite me anymore. You won't have to roll your eyes when I show up or whisper in the kitchen when I leave the room. I'm done with all of it. I'm not angry, I'm not vengeful, I'm simply done. This house was the last place I felt tethered to any kind of belonging, and now I've let it go. The new owners are sweet, they'll take care of it. And don't worry, they won't tolerate uninvited guests, not even on holidays. Consider this letter your official notice. 3 days after I sent the letter, my phone began buzzing nonstop. Missed calls, voicemail messages, a flood of texts that went from confusion to panic to anger. My sister Kate, who hadn't said a kind word to me in over a year, suddenly had a lot to say. "You're breaking Mom's heart," one message read. Another said, "You're acting like a child." Tara, my cousin, sent a barrage of texts starting with, "Are you seriously selling the house?" and ending with, "You'll regret this." But the one that truly stuck with me came from my mom. It was a simple sentence: "Why are you doing this to us?" I stared at the message for a long time, the weight of it pressing down on me. I almost replied. I even typed a few different responses, some sharp, others more gentle. One version simply said, "Because you let them," but in the end, I deleted all of it. She already knew. She didn't need me to say it. A week later, the sale went through. The new owners took over and the family tried to block it. But since Tara hadn't kept up with her share of the property taxes, and I had majority rights on the deed thanks to a little-known clause I had activated through my LLC, there was nothing they could do. The sale was final. Legally, financially, and emotionally, it was done. Summer came and went, and the family ended up renting an Airbnb by the lake in a neighboring town. I saw the photos on my cousin's Instagram. The same dock, the same forced smiles, the same energy of pretending nothing had changed. Except it had. because the next time they needed a favor, there would be no Eli to call, no silent supporter to pick up the slack, no wallet full of generosity, no one to be the quiet one in the background. And that's when they would realize the truth they had taken me for granted for far too long. As the weeks passed, things became quieter than I expected. There were no more calls, no more texts. It was as though after years of silent dismissals, the silence between us had finally become mutual. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to fix anything. I stopped checking their social media posts, stopped obsessing over what they were doing or saying. I removed myself from the last remnants of family email threads. My phone was still and my mind was clearer than it had been in years. But clarity doesn't mean peace comes easily. There were nights when I lay awake wondering if I had gone too far, if I should have just kept being the quiet one, the dependable one, the one who always bit his tongue for the sake of keeping a fragile family illusion intact. But then I realized that internal guilt was just a tool manipulation from a family who had expected me to never push back. That guilt, which had been my well-worn jacket for so many years, felt more like a prison now, and I finally knew I didn't need to carry it anymore. It was time to let it go. Something else started growing in its place, something stronger. Dignity, boundaries, a sense of self-respect. A strange but welcome pride in the fact that for the first time I had chosen myself over the people who had proven time and time again that they wouldn't choose me. As the months went on, I noticed a shift in my life. Work started to get better. I got promoted, and it was as if the mental space I had been dedicating to family drama and toxic dynamics finally freed up. Without the constant drain of trying to fix broken relationships, my mind could finally focus on what mattered. I was able to make better decisions and push forward in ways I hadn't been able to before. I took that trip to Kyoto I had been putting off for years. I went solo. I spent 2 weeks wandering through bamboo forests, sipping tea on quiet balconies and embracing the serenity that had eluded me for so long. I didn't post about it. I didn't announce it to the world. I simply lived it fully quietly for myself. I finally learned what it meant to experience life without the pressure of others' expectations weighing me down. Back home, I continued to build a life where I wasn't invisible anymore. I hosted game nights with friends, cooked dinners where the conversations were fun and lighthearted, not critiques or veiled insults. I laughed more. I slept better. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had a place where I truly belonged. And when I saw old photos of family gatherings pop up on my phone, those awkward moments where I stood off to the side, half smiling, half hoping for inclusion, I swiped past them, not because I was bitter, but because I had finally made peace with the fact that I wasn't a part of that world anymore, and I didn't need to be. Just before Christmas, I received a text from my nephew Liam. It wasn't from my sister Kate or even my cousin Tara, but from Liam himself. It was a video message. "Hey, Uncle Jack," he said, grinning toothlessly into the camera. "Mom says we're not supposed to talk to you, but I miss you. I told her that's dumb. I hope you're okay. I'm building another Lego spaceship. It's got 3 engines this time." Behind him, I could hear my sister's voice yelling, "Liam, give me that phone," and the video abruptly cut off. I watched the video again and again. My chest tightened, but it wasn't with anger. It was with sadness. Not for myself, but for him, for what he was being dragged into. for the cycle of exclusion and the manipulation of silence that he too would eventually experience if things didn't change. He didn't deserve to be part of that toxic world. So I sent him a video back. "Hey, bud," I said, smiling. "That sounds like an awesome spaceship. I bet it's the fastest one in the galaxy. I miss you too, and I'm always here no matter what anyone says." I didn't hear back from him, and that was okay, because I meant it. The revenge in the end was never really about hurting them, it was about stopping the hurt they caused me. It was about putting up walls not to punish but to protect myself. And maybe, just maybe, someone in the next generation, someone like Liam, won't grow up feeling invisible. Maybe they'll learn that it's okay to say no, to draw boundaries, to walk away from people who only love you when it's convenient. As for me, I'm good. I bought a new place, smaller, cozier, with a real fireplace and a wide front porch. I host game nights with friends. I cook dinners that aren't critiques in disguise. I laugh more. I sleep better. And when old photos from family gatherings pop up on my phone, those ones where I was standing off to the side, half smiling, half hoping, I just swipe past them. Not because I'm bitter, but because I've finally learned to let go.